Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour. I'm Sergeant Paul Maneg with the Manitoba RCMP. Je suis le Sergent Paul Maneg avec la GRC du Manitoba. I acknowledge and recognize that we are on Treaty 1 territory. This land is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. J'aimerais reconnaître que le territoire sur lequel nous nous trouvons est visé par le traité numéro 1. Il s'agit du territoire ancestral des Anishinaabe, des Cree, des Oji-Cree, des Dakota et des Dene, et du territoire national des Métis de la Rivière Rouge. Thank you for coming today. Merci d'être venu aujourd'hui. With me today are Inspector Tim Arseneault, Manitoba RCMP Major Crime Services, the Honorable Wab Kinew, Premier of Manitoba, the Honorable Matt Wiebe, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Manitoba, the Honorable Nahanni Fontaine, Minister of Family, Grand Chief Cathy Merrick, Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, and Chief Kennedy from the Women's Secretariat. Je suis accompagné aujourd'hui de l'inspecteur Tim Arseneault, des services des crimes graves de la GRC du Manitoba, de l'honorable Wab Kinew, Premier ministre du Manitoba, de l'honorable Matt Wiebe, ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Manitoba, de l'honorable Nahanni Fontaine, ministre de la Famille, de la grande chef Cathy Merrick, de l'Assemblée des chefs du Manitoba, et de la chef Kennedy du secrétariat à la condition féminine. Today, Inspector Tim Arseneault with Manitoba RCMP Major Crime Services will provide an update in both English and French on the ongoing investigation into Sunday's 5 homicides. Aujourd'hui, l'inspecteur Arseneault du service des crimes majeurs de la GRC fournira une mise à jour en anglais et en français sur l'enquête en cours concernant les 5 homicides de dimanche. Following his remarks, Grand Chief Cathy Merrick, along with Premier Wab Kinew, will say a few words. Following the Premier's remarks, Inspector Arseneault will be available to answer questions. Après le français, l'inspecteur Arseneault sera disponible pour répondre aux questions. Sir.
Thank you. Premier, Grand Chief Merrick, Honorable Matt Wiebe, Honorable Nahanni Fontaine. Thank you for being here with us today. We know today's update will be difficult for many to hear, and our thoughts continue to be with the families and friends who are dealing with this unimaginable tragedy. Our thoughts are also with the community of Carman, who are mourning the loss of an entire family, which we now know includes a youth and 3 young children. The investigation into the 5 deaths that occurred on Sunday, February 11th, is continuing with officers from Major Crime Services and from a number of specialized units investigating every aspect of this crime. Evidence gathered yesterday evening and early this morning has led, in close consultation with the Crown, to the laying of 5 first-degree murder charges against Howard Manoakeesick, a 29-year-old male from Carman, Manitoba. He remains city. Howard Manoakeesick is the same male who was initially arrested and taken into custody yesterday morning on Highway 248 in the RMA. The deceased individual, who was located on Highway 3, has been identified as a 30-year-old female who was living in common law with the accused. The 3 deceased children, who were located outside of the burning vehicle, have been identified as their 6-year-old daughter, their 4-year-old son, and their 2.5-month-old daughter. The deceased individual located at the residence in Carman was the 17-year-old niece of the 30-year-old deceased female. All 5 victims lived together in the community of Carman. Yesterday, we had provided information that a witness assisted in pulling the 3 young children from the burning vehicle. However, in speaking with the witnesses and gathering other information, this is no longer accurate. Further information has revealed that it was the suspect that removed the children from the vehicle. Our officers are now working to determine a timeline of events. Until we have a clearer picture of what occurred and when, we will not be able to provide any details. Officers are no longer on the scene at the highway locations. The highways are opened again, but we remain on the scene at the residence in Carman. Autopsies occurred today and are scheduled to continue tomorrow. We continue to have dozens of officers work on this file to ensure there's a thorough and complete investigation and we gather all the evidence available. Young innocent lives were senselessly taken yesterday and we grieve with all Manitobans. Thank you. Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Grand Chef Merrick, l'Honorable Matt Wiebe, l'Honorable Nahami Fontaine. Merci de votre présence ici aujourd'hui. Nous savons que ce compte-rendu sera difficile pour beaucoup de gens. La famille et les amis aux prises avec cette tragédie imaginable sont toujours dans nos pensées. Nous pensons également à la collectivité de Carman qui pleure une famille entière, y compris, nous le savons maintenant, une adolescente et 3 jeunes enfants. L'enquête sur les 5 meurtres du dimanche 11 février se poursuit. Les services des crimes majeurs en étudiant chaque facette avec l'aide de plusieurs services spécialisés de la GRC. Après consultation avec le ministre public, les services à conviction recueillis hier soir nous conduisent à porter 5 chefs d'accusation de meurtre au premier degré contre Howard Manoakeesick, 29 ans, de Carman au Manitoba. Il est toujours en détention. Howard Manoakeesick est également le suspect qu'on avait placé en détention hier matin après l'avoir arrêté sur la route 248 dans le RM de Cartier. La femme retrouvée sur la route 3 a été identifiée la conjointe de fait du suspect, âgée de 30 ans. Les 3 enfants retrouvés à l'extérieur du véhicule en flammes ont été identifiés comme leur fille de 6 ans, leur fils de 4 ans et leur fille de 2 mois et demi. La femme retrouvée dans le domicile à Carman étant, quant à elle, la nièce de 17 ans de la femme âgée de 30 ans. Les 5 victimes habitaient ensemble à Carman. Nous avons annoncé hier qu'un témoin avait aidé à tirer les 3 enfants du véhicule en flammes, mais après nos échanges avec ce témoin, cette information se révèle inexacte. C'est plutôt le suspect accusé lui-même qui a tiré les enfants du véhicule. Nous travaillons maintenant à établir la chronologie des événements. Nous pourrons donner davantage de précision quand nous saurons plus clairement que c'était produit et quand. Nos agents ont terminé leur recherche sur les routes concernées. Les routes sont ouvertes, mais se trouvent toujours au domicile à Carman. Des autopsies sont prévues d'aujourd'hui et demain pour déterminer la cause exacte des décès. Des dizaines de nos agents sont toujours à pied d'œuvre pour une enquête rigoureuse et complète. De jeunes vies innocentes ont été perdues hier. Nous sommes en deuil comme toute la population manitobaine. Merci.
Thank you, sir. I'd now like to invite Grand Chief Cathy Merrick to the podium. J'invite maintenant le Grand Chef Cathy Merrick à l'estrade.
Gusane nanaskumun episiriak episimama wiak gisigegon yanimutamak My name is Cathy Merrick. I'm the Grand Chief for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. I represent 62 First Nations and 172,000 of our people. And I'm here today, I'm very saddened with the news that we received in terms of what happened over the weekend. And it's not our way as a people. It's not our way in our culture, in our language, when we talk about violence. It's violence, something that we have learned as a people. We're heartbroken with the loss of our women and the loss of young ones that we have lost over the weekend, and it's heartbreaking to speak to it. I'm a grandmother, I'm a kokum, I have grandchildren, and I was thinking about them when I was sitting here, and that we have to prevent these things from happening to our families. We need to be able to ensure that we be able to provide our relatives with what they need in their life in terms of the disparities that we encounter with our relatives. And it's sad that people are struggling, and that we need to ensure that they have access to culturally appropriate services, that we be able to ensure that we see, and that we be able to ensure that we provide that for them. A lot of our people get caught in between, and they struggle, and these things happen. I'm sure the man loved his children. I'm sure that he's sorry that he had to pull them out of the vehicle, but he did something wrong. And that's why we're today, to speak to that wrongness that happened. And that these children have lost their lives where they would have had good long lives to live. And now they're gone. The mother is gone. The niece is gone. We have to respect life. We only get one chance at life. We have to respect it. We have to ensure that our relatives respect life so they don't end up in the systems. So we have a lot of responsibility as leaders, as mothers, as kokums, that we be responsible as to how we teach our children to be respectful. So with that, condolences to the community and to the families that are suffering right now, and that we pray for them, and that we be with them, and that we support them.
Thank you, Grand Chief Merrick. Merci. Grand Chef Merrick. I'd now like to invite to the podium the Honourable Wab Kinew, Premier of Manitoba.
To my fellow Manitobans and Canadians, the You hear the officer say that an entire family has been lost. It was a dark time in Manitoba. I remember what it's like to hold a 2.5-month-old in my arms. I remember what it's like to walk a 4-year-old to nursery. I remember what it's like to hold the hand of a 6-year-old while you're crossing the road. I remember what it's like to be there with a 17-year-old who should be thinking of clothes. And I know what it's like at the end of each day to share a laugh with my wife. And I think people from all walks of life in every part of this province understand these bonds, because these bonds are sacred. And this time is difficult for us right now because these sacred bonds have been broken in our province. And there is no context, there is no explanation that can make this okay. This is pure darkness. But I want to say to the people of Manitoba that we are not helpless in the face of darkness. We can take action and work together to protect the vulnerable. We can offer comfort. We can offer support. We can find support in faith. I know that there are many people who will be thinking of the book of Job tonight, which asks us to grapple with the age-old question of why do bad things happen to good people? When you think about a 2.5-month-old, it is impossible to imagine that there's anything that could justify what took place. The same could be said of every other victim in this terrible tragedy. And yet faith may not provide us with an easy answer. It does provide us with a direction to be able to grapple with some of these difficult challenges and intractable dilemmas. And so I call on Manitobans, congregations and spiritual gatherings across the province to pray for this family, to pray for the people of Carman, to pray for your fellow Manitobans. We can find support community. I know there are signs today that even in the midst of this darkness, that there is light in our province, that witnesses called for help, that people at the schools stepped up to have some tough conversations with children who are wondering where their classmates are, and that we had the first responders on the scene, law enforcement, fire, ambulance services. And I want to say thank you to all of the first responders in this instance and each and every day who put their lives on the line to keep us safe. It's been said that our province exists as a collective act of will. And today, we are being summoned to call upon that will to do something difficult, to be there for one another during this time of need. Yesterday, a sacred bond was broken. And yet Manitobans collectively remain unbroken today. We see that in the first responders. We see that in the helpers who are there for the grieving today. And I know we will see it tonight when grandparents, parents, partners hug your loved ones a little bit tighter. Take this time to say, I love you. We are one Manitoba. Nothing can break that. We will remember that this is a good place where darkness will not win. So in times like this, it's important that we remain united and work together for the collective good of our province. Thanks again to the RCMP, and our sincerest condolences and sympathies to the people of Carman and people across Manitoba. Comme père, moi je me souviens d'avoir des enfants à ces âges. Moi je pense à mon épouse, et puis en réfléchir, on voit que ces liens sont sacrés. Mais dans ce cas-là, on voit que ces liens étaient brisés. Il n'y a rien qu'on pourrait dire pour expliquer ce qui est arrivé. Mais en même temps, je voudrais lancer un message aux Manitobains et Manitobaines que nous avons toujours un pouvoir d'appuyer, un pouvoir d'aider. Alors il y a une ville, une famille, une province qui sont désolés aujourd'hui. Mais à ce temps-là, ce temps maintenant, je demande aux Manitobains et Manitobaines d'appuyer à cette famille, d'aider à Carman et de se rassembler ensemble pour améliorer l'avenir dans notre province. Je remercie le GRC et puis tous ceux qui ont aidé à répondre à ces situations. Et puis finalement, je remercie tous les Manitobains et Manitobaines qui sont prêts à aider leur province maintenant. Miigwech, thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Merci, Monsieur Premier Ministre. Now, if there are any questions, I will invite Inspector Arseneault to the podium and he'll answer what he can. Sir?
Thank you. Let me begin by just saying obviously we've been speaking with the families of the deceased and they've asked for privacy, so I'm here to pass on that message. We won't be releasing the names or confirming any names or speaking about the victims at all at the request of the families.
Inspector, I'm just wondering when next of kin were notified. We're told it happened quite late last night and they were quite upset to find out some of this information on Facebook.
The next of kins, of course, there's 3 scenes. It was a significant event. We had to understand there was at different times. The exact time, I don't know. We have to confirm identity first, and in this day and age with social media, it's very difficult to get ahead of that because we do not want to make any mistakes in that. It was done last night. It was done again this morning.
That initial scene that was called in as a hit and run, is that still believed to be the case, or can you give us any more information?
What I've provided, that is part of the investigation. What I can say is these 3 scenes are linked. This is all 3 different scenes, one event with one suspect.
Once that mother was found at that scene, was there ever a search for the kids before that second scene came across?
Those get into a lot of the details, and the search for children or search was not at that point. We needed to work on first identifying who that person was.
Hi, Tim Mordirani from the Globe and Mail. I was in Carman today and some of the family members told us about Ryan's history with intimate partner violence and how the police were called last year at one point. I know you're not talking about the victims today because of their privacy, but can you explain to us some of his history here and why the cops didn't respond?
I I won't be able to speak to his history. Obviously, as I said, we're 30 hours into this investigation. We're continuing to gather that. We do have a lot of that, the history, and we're trying to determine, we understand the what now, we need to understand the why. That's what takes longer, and we are getting there. As we gather this information, it becomes evidence in the court case, and we're not going to jeopardize that, so I won't be able to speak to any of it here.
Can you speak to why the circumstances of the fire set by the suspect? Can you speak to anything?
No, I can't. Not to anything more that I've already spoken about. It's along the same lines. That all forms part of the evidence, which will be forwarded to the Crown for trial, and we don't want to jeopardize having someone held accountable.
Can you give any more details on the timeline itself?
The timeline is still worked on. I can go back over what we knew yesterday. We were called at 7:30 in the morning for the body in the ditch, which was potentially a hit and run initially. That's what the call was. At 10 a.m. we received the call, which was, and the first one was the Carman detachment. The second one was a Headingley detachment at 10 o'clock for a vehicle on fire. And there is no third call. The investigators, as they start putting the pieces together and understanding the evidence, the investigators, what they discovered led them to the house in Carman.
Is it believed that the incident at the home in Carman happened first, or was it the incident on the highway subsequent?
We are starting to understand that, but I can't speak to it.
Can you or have you been able to determine specific causes of death for all 5 victims?
No, the autopsies will be the official process that will help with that. Those autopsies are going on today and tomorrow.
Why lay charges now when we don't have a timeline yet?
We have
First-degree charges, right?
Yes, and we have evidence that gets us to the point we believe there's a reasonable likelihood of a conviction. We've consulted with the Crown all the way along. We do have evidence, and we do understand some of the timelines. Like I said, I'm just not going to be able to speak to them here.
Is it believed the children were killed elsewhere and brought to where they are, or died in the fire?
That is very specific evidence that we're not going to speak to.
Going back to the first-degree murder charges, is there an element that police believe that was premeditated, and that's why you're laying first-degree murder charges?
Well, in not speaking of this specific case, but in general, first degree, that would lead one to believe there's premeditation and some planning involved. That's where first degree comes up from second degree.
And going back to the car fire, can police reveal at this time as to why the car was on fire? Did it hit another car? Was it lit on fire?
No, we can't speak to it. What I can say is that it was the only vehicle. There was no other vehicle involved.
Just kind of getting back to a question that was asked earlier, can you confirm that Arseneault had called that home in Carman in the past?
No, I can't confirm that.
Sorry, I just want to clarify, the 17-year-old, was that the niece of the 30-year-old or her cousin? Just because we've heard a few different things.
It's the niece of the 30-year-old.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you now know that the accused removed the children from the vehicle?
Yesterday we spoke, we wanted to get information out as quick as we could, so it was about 9 hours into the investigation. We've clarified with speaking with witnesses who were there, and there was a little bit of confusion with the witnesses pulled them out, but it wasn't that. The witness saw the suspect pulling the children out.
Is it still accurate to describe that first call as a hit-and-run situation?
That is what the call was that came in. Our investigation has obviously expanded beyond that, and like I said, the 3 scenes are related. But I can't speak to specifics if it turns out to be that or something else.
But it wasn't a hit-and-run?
We're still working on that.
Can you speak to why the area was so wide, why there was 3 different scenes? There's a ditch, there's the car crash incident, and there's the home as well, too.
So this is where the events happened. Clearly, we're still working on the timelines and going backwards. Obviously, things happened before we're ever alerted. The police are first alerted at 7:30 and begin the investigation into what is initially reported as a hit and run. We continue that investigation, but it's a second call that comes. It's in a different location. We are gathering information as to how and why these things are all spread out, but I won't be able to speak on specifics.
And also, in terms of the suspect pulling the victims out of the vehicle as well, too, is there a reason why the suspect?
We have some information that we understand that we're working on, but I can't speak to it. And part of it was to clarify what we had thought it was yesterday. So we were speaking to it, and that's about it.
Right, Inspector, you said that all of the victims lived in the house, and Ryan was the common law partner. Was he living at the home with all of them at that time?
Yes.
Just going off that as well, he is the father of these 3 children as well?
Yes, he's the father, and the deceased, the 30-year-old, is the mother.
Is this being investigated as an incident with intimate partner violence, domestic violence? Can you give us some details about that?
Well, it's being investigated as 5 homicides. Again, the why, and we're getting to that, but that's going to take time, and we want to get it right.
The suspect here, are you able to say when he'll be in court for these charges first?
So he was charged with the 5 degrees. That charge has been laid. The first appearance process would be going on probably as we speak today. We don't have exact dates yet. I anticipate in a couple weeks there will be another appearance.
You're talking to the public right now, right? Are you hoping to get more information from the public? Like, when are you going to sort of tell us more details? What's the plan for that now?
Well, as always, we have investigators. We have teams of investigators that have been on this all night. Have worked all through the day and are continuing to work today. Obviously, anytime, if anybody, there was 3 different scenes. If anybody has any information of seeing anything, yes, please call the police. And we're also interviewing, we've also interviewed a lot of people who would see these things. But if someone has something to add that we haven't spoken to them yet, absolutely, we'd like them to call us.
Inspector, Ryan was taken into custody at the scene, one of the scenes, which is yesterday. Did he go with officers willingly?
Yes, there was no issue with the arrest.
And has he been cooperative with investigators?
That is part of what the evidence we're continuing to gather. We have obviously we would speak with him and try to understand what has happened. So we have been speaking with him yesterday and today.
Can you say whether he was possibly under the influence of anything when he was arrested?
I don't have that information. I can't speak to that.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That'll conclude today's press conference. Thank you.